We now know the name and new details about the teenage girl who was found dead inside a Tesla owned by singer David. You may remember her body was discovered at a tow yard here in LA. The LA County Medical Examiner identified the girl as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, who was reported missing last year.
September 8, 2025. Workers at a Hollywood car lot smell something so terrible they can barely breathe. The stench is coming from a black Tesla that's been sitting in the California sun for 5 days. When police open the trunk, they find something that almost made them vomit. A plastic bag containing the dismembered head and torso of a teenage girl. But here's what makes this discovery absolutely shocking. The Tesla belonged to David, popularly known as D4VD, a famous singer with millions of fans whose hit song Romantic Homicide has lyrics that say, "In the back of my mind, I killed you." The body in his car, a girl named Celeste Rivas, who had been missing for over a year. Here's the detail that changes everything. This car was never reported stolen. David knew exactly where his Tesla was, which means he knew what was inside it. But here's the question keeping investigators awake at night. When did she actually die? Was she killed right after she went missing? Or was she kept alive somewhere, hidden away for months, before meeting this horrible end?
Oh, look it. Answer that one. That's so mean if you don't answer.
Which one? That's controversial.
It's controversial of raping kids.
Before we go further, I want to ask you something. Have you ever encountered a missing person case? Drop a comment and let me know, because what happened to Celeste shows how dangerous our world can be for young people. Welcome to Crazy Dark Files. Right now, there are thousands of teenagers like Celeste who are being targeted by predators online through social media platforms and gaming apps. If you want to help spread awareness about grooming tactics and the system failures that cost innocent lives, then please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your action now could help protect another vulnerable teen who might be getting manipulated by someone they met online, just like Celeste was. The morning of September 8th started like any other day at Hollywood Tow. This impound lot sits in the heart of Los Angeles, where abandoned cars wait for their owners or get crushed into scrap metal. Workers were doing their usual rounds when something hit them like a wall of death. The smell was coming from the roof level of the parking structure. It was so strong that employees couldn't ignore it anymore. For 5 long days, a black Tesla had been sitting there, baking under the hot California sun. The car had been towed from the Hollywood Hills after someone reported it abandoned. Whatever was inside that Tesla was making its presence known in the most horrible way possible. By 12:30 p.m., the stench was so bad that an employee finally called the police. When officers arrived at Hollywood Tow, they knew they were dealing with something serious. The Tesla had been parked on the roof where the heat was the worst. The temperature had been climbing into the 80s and 90s all week. When police opened the trunk, they found a plastic bag. Inside that bag was something that would change this case forever: the dismembered remains of a human being. This wasn't just a body. This was a head and torso that had been cut apart and wrapped in plastic. The remains were so badly decomposed that investigators couldn't even tell if they were looking at a male or female victim. The heat, time, and California sun had done their work. What they could determine was that the victim was about 5 feet 2 inches tall and weighed around 71 pounds. The person had dark, wavy hair and was wearing a tube top. But there was one detail that would become crucial to identifying the victim: a distinctive tattoo on the right index finger that said, "Shh." The first thing police did was run the license plate. The Tesla was registered to David Anthony Burke in Texas. That name might not mean anything to most people, but his stage name would shock millions of fans around the world. This was D4VD's car, the rising music star whose sad songs had taken over social media. Here's what made this discovery even more disturbing. The car had not been reported stolen. This wasn't some random crime where a celebrity's vehicle got taken by strangers. If D4VD didn't report his own car missing, that meant he knew exactly where it was. And if he knew where his car was, Did he also know what was inside it? The investigation was just beginning, but already nothing about this case made sense. For over a week, the identity of the dismembered person found in D4D's Tesla remained a mystery. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner had to use advanced forensic analysis to figure out who this was. The remains were so badly damaged that normal identification methods wouldn't work. Finally, on September 16th, they had an answer that would break a family's heart. The victim was Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a teenage girl from Lake Elsinore, California. Lake Elsinore is a small town about 70 miles southeast of Los Angeles, far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, where her dismembered body was found. Here's a crucial detail that makes this case even more heartbreaking. Celeste was just 13 years old when she disappeared in April 2024. She was 15 when they found her remains in that Tesla trunk. That means she had been missing for over a year before her body was discovered. To her family, Celeste was everything. In a GoFundMe page set up to help pay for her funeral, they described her as a beloved daughter, sister, cousin, and friend. The family is asking for $20,000 to help lay their daughter to rest. They wrote that they are heartbroken and devastated by this tragic loss. The fact that this family has to crowdfund their daughter's funeral while the person allegedly responsible was making millions from his music career shows just how unfair this situation really is. Celeste was a student at Lakeland Village High School, trying to navigate the normal challenges that come with being a teenager. But Celeste's story was far from normal. According to neighbors and family members, she had a troubling pattern of running away from home. Throughout 2024, she would disappear without warning, sending her family into panic mode and the community into search parties. The most serious incidents happened in February and April of 2024. Each time she went missing, the neighborhood would rally together to help her family search for her. People cared about this girl and wanted to bring her home safely. The last time anyone saw Celeste alive was on April 5, 2024. Her family filed a missing person report, but like so many missing teen cases, it didn't get the attention it deserved. Celeste became just another statistic, another runaway teen that the system failed to protect. What makes this timeline so disturbing is what investigators discovered later. Evidence suggests that Celeste's connection to D4VD didn't start in 2024. This relationship appears to have begun much earlier, when she was even younger and more vulnerable. Now let me tell you about who David Anthony Burke really is. Born in Queens, New York, D4VD moved to Houston, Texas when he was 13 years old. His path to fame started in the most ordinary way possible. He was just a kid trying to make it as a gaming streamer. D4V spent his time playing Fortnite and posting videos on YouTube, hoping to go viral like so many other gamers. But he ran into a problem that many streamers face: copyright issues. The music he used in his gaming videos was getting his content flagged and threatening his income. That's when his mother made a suggestion that would change everything. She told him to make his own music instead. His breakthrough came in 2022 with a song called Romantic Homicide. The track went viral on TikTok and climbed all the way to number 4 on Billboard's Hot Rock and Alternative Songs chart. Millions of people connected with his sad, emotional lyrics about love and loss. But now, knowing what we know, those lyrics sound completely different. Listen to these words. In the back of my mind, I killed you and I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear. At the time, fans thought this was just typical teenage angst put to music. Now, with Celeste's dismembered body found in his car, these lyrics feel like a confession. But while D4VD was building his music career, he was apparently building something else, a relationship with a vulnerable child. The evidence of their connection is overwhelming and disturbing. First, there are the matching tattoos. TMZ confirmed that both Celeste and D4VD had identical, tattoos on their right index fingers. This wasn't just some popular design that lots of people get. The matching placement and the word itself suggest something much more personal and secretive, like they were telling each other to keep quiet about their relationship. Second, there's photographic evidence. Photos and videos show them together dozens of times. But here's what's really telling. In almost every single image, Celeste is covered up with big hoodies and glasses. It's like someone was deliberately trying to hide her identity or make her look older than she really was. Third, and perhaps most damning, are the Discord messages. These allegedly date back to 2022, which means D4VD was in contact with Celeste when she was just 12 years old. He was using social media platforms to build a relationship with a child who was barely out of elementary school. Celeste's family members, including her brother and sister, have confirmed that there was some type of relationship between them. Her mother told investigators that Celeste had a boyfriend named David D4V. V's real name is David Anthony Burke. The connection couldn't be clearer. But here's where this gets even more disturbing. Children have come forward claiming that David paid them money to keep the relationship quiet. This wasn't just grooming. This was a deliberate cover-up involving multiple minors who were being paid to stay silent about what they knew. The most telling evidence of D4VD's guilty behavior came in 2023, when someone online asked, "Who is the girl?" about Celeste appearing in his content. D4VD's response was immediate and defensive. He lashed out with, "You are a fed." This reaction is extremely telling. If D4VD had nothing to hide, why would he get so upset about someone asking about a girl in his videos? Why would he immediately assume that anyone asking questions was some kind of undercover agent? This defensive response shows he knew exactly what he was doing was wrong. There's also a detail that investigators surely noticed. The last time anyone saw Celeste alive, she was wearing Hello Kitty sandals. Later, D4VD was photographed wearing Hello Kitty pants. D4VD also has an unreleased song titled Celeste. In a case filled with disturbing connections, these feel like trophies, pieces of her that he kept with him. What do you think really happened here? Was this a relationship that went wrong, or was this always going to end in tragedy? Drop your theories in the comments below. Let's start with the teacher who could have saved Celeste's life but chose to stay silent. This science teacher at Lakeland Village High School knew that Celeste had run away in early 2024. He knew she had made her way to Hollywood after meeting someone on social media. He knew that police had found her and brought her back to her mother in Lake Elsinore. But when Celeste disappeared again in April 2024, this teacher, who was legally required as a mandated reporter to report suspected abuse or endangerment of a minor, did nothing. He didn't call authorities. He didn't follow up. He didn't use his position to protect a vulnerable student. That silence might have been the difference between life and death for Celeste.
That's her in my classroom.
A teacher is captured on cell phone video telling his students that Celeste Rivas, the 15-year-old girl found dead inside singer David Anthony Burke's Tesla, had been his student and that he knew she had run away a couple of times.
In a video obtained by TMZ, this teacher can be seen telling his current students about Celeste's case. He even shows them a picture of himself and Celeste that he still keeps on a poster in his classroom. He talks about how she had been missing since I taught her, but he never mentions that he failed to report what he knew when it could have mattered. But perhaps the most damning evidence of D4VD's guilt comes from his own behavior during the investigation. While Celeste's family was desperately searching for answers, D4VD continued his tour schedule like nothing had happened. He performed show after show, posted on social media, and maintained his public image as a rising star. D4VD only canceled his tour dates after Celeste's body was identified on September 16th. Not when she went missing, not when her body was found, only after the world knew who was in that Tesla trunk. Did he suddenly become unavailable for performances? This timeline shows a consciousness of guilt that's hard to ignore. Even more suspicious is the fact that D4VD had multiple breaks lasting days between his tour shows. These weren't just one-night performances. He had extended periods where he wasn't touring. What was he doing during those breaks? Where was he going? These gaps in his schedule raise serious questions about his activities. The social media platform failures in this case are staggering. Discord, where D4VD allegedly first contacted Celeste when she was 12, has become a hunting ground for predators. These platforms make it incredibly easy for adults to target vulnerable children, build relationships over time, and eventually manipulate them into dangerous situations. The grooming process that allegedly happened here is textbook predator behavior. Start with a vulnerable child, build trust over months or years through online contact. Gradually normalize inappropriate conversations and requests. Use gifts, attention, and promises to maintain control. By the time the child realizes they're in danger, they're often too scared or too isolated to ask for help. Even the community response shows both the best and worst of human nature. When Celeste went missing, people organized search parties. They shared her photo on social media. They cared enough to look for her. But somehow, the very systems designed to protect children, schools, social services, law enforcement, failed to connect the dots that could have saved her life. This wasn't just one person's crime. This was a community failure that allowed a predator to operate freely while a vulnerable child paid the ultimate price. 10 days after Celeste's body was identified, police made their move. On September 18, 2025, investigators executed a search warrant on the Hollywood Hills property where D4VD had been staying. This wasn't just a routine search, this was a full-scale evidence collection operation that would determine whether they had enough to charge him with murder. But investigators weren't just looking for digital evidence. They were also searching specifically for blood evidence throughout the property. This tells us that police believe Celeste may have been killed at this location, not somewhere else. The fact that they were looking for blood suggests they suspect violence occurred inside that house, possibly the same violence that led to her dismemberment. The dismembered body wrapped in plastic tells its own story. This wasn't a crime of passion or an accident that got covered up. Someone took the time to cut apart Celeste's body and carefully wrap the pieces in plastic. This level of planning shows premeditation. Someone thought about how to hide what they had done. Throughout this entire investigation, D4VD has claimed to be cooperating with authorities, but his actions tell a completely different story. Let's look at the timeline that investigators are surely examining. Celeste went missing on April 5, 2024. Her body was found on September 8, 2025. That's over a year where D4VD continued his normal life while a family searched desperately for their daughter. The central question haunting this investigation is simple but crucial. When did Celeste actually die? The advanced state of decomposition has made it nearly impossible for the medical examiner to determine an exact time of death. Was she killed shortly after she went missing in April 2024? Or was she kept alive somewhere, hidden away, before meeting her end months later? This timeline question could be the difference between different charges. If Celeste was killed immediately, we're looking at murder. If she was held captive for months before dying, we're looking at kidnapping, false imprisonment, and potentially murder. The decomposition has made this determination incredibly difficult for investigators. The cause of death has not been made public, which suggests the investigation is still ongoing. No arrests have been made yet, but the evidence continues to pile up against D4VD. Celeste's death exposes failures at every level of the systems that were supposed to protect her. This wasn't just one person's crime. This was a breakdown of multiple safety nets that should have caught her before she fell through the cracks. Celeste's family filed multiple missing person reports throughout 2024 as she repeatedly ran away from home. But like so many missing teen cases, these reports didn't get the urgent attention they deserved. Society has a dangerous habit of treating runaway teens as troublemakers rather than victims who need help. Even with all the evidence we've discussed, there are still massive questions in this case that keep investigators working around the clock. These aren't just details that would be nice to know. These are crucial pieces of the puzzle that could determine what charges get filed and how justice gets served. Here's a question that investigators are definitely asking. If D4VD is innocent, why wasn't his car reported stolen? Think about it. If someone took your car and you had no idea where it was, wouldn't you call the police immediately? Especially if you're a celebrity who depends on your reputation. The fact that this Tesla was never reported missing suggests that D4VD knew exactly where his car was the entire time. The role of D4VD's manager and other people in his circle raises even more disturbing questions. How many people knew about his relationship with Celeste and stayed silent? We know that children were paid money to keep quiet about what they saw, but what exactly did they see? Were there adults who witnessed inappropriate behavior and chose to look the other way because of D4VD's fame and money? The dismemberment itself tells us something important about whoever did this. Cutting apart a human body isn't something most people could do. It requires a level of violence and determination that suggests this wasn't a crime of passion. Someone spent time and effort trying to make sure Celeste's body would never be found or identified. The plastic wrapping shows planning and forethought. There's also the question of location. Where did Celeste die? Was it at the Hollywood Hills property that police raided? Was it somewhere else entirely? The search for blood evidence suggests investigators have theories, but they haven't shared those theories with the public yet. Perhaps the most haunting question is this: how many other people are out there right now who knew what was happening to Celeste but chose to stay silent? How many people could have saved her life with just one phone call to authorities? What country are you watching from? Have you seen similar cases in your area where celebrities or influential people seem to get away with hurting vulnerable young people? Drop a comment and let me know, because this pattern happens more often than we'd like to admit. Celeste's story doesn't have to be in vain if we learn from the failures that cost her life. There are concrete steps parents, educators, and communities can take to protect vulnerable young people from predators. Parents need to monitor their children's online activity, especially on platforms like Discord, where predators actively hunt for victims. Look for secretive behavior, unexplained gifts, or sudden isolation from family and friends. If an adult is showing special interest in your child and asking them to keep secrets, that's a major red flag. Law enforcement needs to take missing teen reports seriously, especially when there's a pattern of running away. These aren't just troublemakers, they're often victims who need protection. The entertainment industry must hold celebrities accountable for their behavior and stop protecting predators just because they make money. While investigators continue building their case, Celeste's family is fighting their own battle, the fight to give their daughter the dignity she deserves in death and to find answers about what happened during the final months of her life. The family has set up a GoFundMe page with a goal of raising $20,000, 0 cents, to help cover funeral expenses. This isn't just about money, this is about a family that has been completely devastated by loss and is struggling to afford to bury their child. The description on their fundraising page is heartbreaking. They describe Celeste as their beloved daughter, sister, cousin, and friend, and say they are heartbroken and devastated by this tragic loss. Think about how unfair this situation really is. While the person allegedly responsible for Celeste's death was making millions of dollars from his music career, her family has to crowdfund just to give her a proper burial. D4VD was performing sold-out concerts and living in Hollywood Hills mansions while Celeste's parents were desperately searching for their missing daughter. The community response has been overwhelming in the best possible way. People who never knew Celeste personally have donated money to help her family. They've shared her story on social media. They've demanded justice. This shows that even in our divided world, people still care about protecting children and holding predators accountable. Meanwhile, D4VD's response to this tragedy tells its own story. He canceled his remaining tour dates, but only after Celeste's body was identified on September 16th. Not when her body was found, not when the investigation started, only when the world knew who was in that Tesla trunk did he suddenly become unavailable for performances. The investigation is still ongoing and no arrests have been made yet. But Celeste's family deserves more than just an ongoing investigation. They deserve to know what happened to their daughter during those final months of her life. They deserve to know if she suffered. They deserve to know if she was calling out for help while the world ignored her cries. Most importantly, they deserve to see whoever is responsible for this tragedy held accountable. Celeste's life mattered, and her death should not be in vain. As of today, the investigation into Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death is still ongoing. The Los Angeles Police Department continues to analyze evidence seized from the Hollywood Hills property. The medical examiner is still working to determine exactly when and how Celeste died. No arrests have been made, but investigators are building what appears to be a strong case. This case represents everything that's wrong with how we protect vulnerable young people in our society. A young girl was allegedly targeted through social media. Multiple people may have known what was happening and stayed silent. A teacher who was legally required to report suspected abuse chose not to act. A missing teen case didn't get the urgent attention it deserved. If you're a parent, talk to your children about online safety. If you're an educator, understand your responsibility as a mandated reporter. If you work in the entertainment industry, speak up when you see inappropriate behavior. If you're just someone who cares about protecting children, share stories like Celeste's to raise awareness. This case is still developing, and there will likely be more updates in the coming weeks and months. Make sure you subscribe to Crazy Dark Files so you don't miss any breaking news about this investigation. Hit that notification bell so you'll know immediately when we have updates about arrests, charges, or trial proceedings. Share Celeste's story to raise awareness about online predators and the systems that fail to protect our children.